What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are here with some more NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for DraftKings and FanDuel. This time for the Week 16 single game showdown slate for Monday Night Football, the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers. This is quite the showdown slate. Welcome, I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner. We will run through all the injuries for tonight's slate. We will talk about low risk lineup construction tips and core plays. And I'm laughing because this slate is really a truly special slate. Maybe the worst or best showdown slate we've had all season. And then again, of course, we will talk about the strategies and picks and ideas and angles to help you try to win the biggest prizes that DraftKings and FanDuel have to offer. Now, recording this Monday morning, obviously Christmas is on Wednesday. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate. Jack and I will be live or we will record a video at some point, probably tomorrow, Tuesday, for the Wednesday two-game slate. So if you're looking forward to that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you get notified whenever we post that video. Now, for tonight's game, Green Bay, 14-point home favorites. Let's start with the visiting Saints and their injuries. And all you have to do is take a quick peek at the player pool to see all of the players that they have that are out. Let's start at the top. And let's start with their quarterback position. Derek Carr is out. Spencer Rattler will draw the start. Now Rattler's he's a rookie, and he started a couple of games so far this year. In both of those games, attempted 35 plus pass attempts, ran for 25 plus yards. So not a completely inept fantasy quarterback. Can he support a bunch of other pass catchers? That remains to be seen. But it's not like they're going to limit their offense with Spencer Rattler. So at least gives us some chance of the Saints competing in this game. So Rattler expecting to start, and he will be the most popular Saints player on the entire slate for both FanDuel and DraftKings. Now, Alvin Kamara, sadly for any of you who drafted him in season long or best ball, he is out this week and will not contribute. And I think it was just assumed that Kendre Miller, who's looked great since Dennis Allen left, who Dennis Allen absolutely hated Kendre Miller. Dennis Allen's gone as the head coach. And now the team seems to like Kendre Miller. He's performed pretty well, scored the touchdown back in week 14. However, they asked the new head coach how they plan to replace Alvin Kamara this week, and he said the word committee about 5 times. So, not great. In a lost season, why would you give the ball to Jamal Williams? I don't know. But what I think is what is going on here, you listen to the coach's comments, and you can find it on Twitter. But he referenced the fact that Jamal Williams, who is the other guy who's going to help in this committee tonight with Kendre Miller, referenced the fact that he's played against the Packers, he's played in this stadium, he's played in the cold, he used to play for the Packers. So whether that means anything or not, but it does seem like the coaches want to get Jamal Williams more involved in this game because of who they are playing and where they're playing. So I'm not sure it's a revenge narrative angle, but at least some familiarity there, and I think that he will take enough away from Kendre Miller, if not outright lead this backfield based on what the coaches were saying. It makes it very tough to figure out what they're going to do, especially as 14-point underdogs, because Kendre not really known as a pass catching back, and Jamal obviously has experience there. So Kendre Miller, despite being $9,400, will be way more popular than, let's find him, Jamal Williams at $3,600. So pretty interesting scenario there. He also mentioned Jordan Mims, who I don't expect to see very much. He's $400 on DraftKings. We played him a lot in preseason DFS, but he did mention his name. But at the end of his statement or his comments about the backfield, he mostly mentioned Kendre Miller and Jamal Williams leading the way. So Mims, an afterthought, a guy you can mix in if you're building 150 lineups. Cool. Like the slate so far? You're going to love it if we keep going. Now, Chris Olave remains out. He's on injured reserve with that concussion. Did return to practice, but he won't play. Bud Means, who was playing a decent amount of snaps for them this season, he still remains out as well. So that means maybe wide receiver one, Marquez Valdez-Scantling once again, but he's questionable. Did not practice Thursday, Friday, and conflicting reports about whether he practiced or not on Saturday. I'm not sure how this is possible, but the official injury report has him as not practicing, but beat reporters had him as out there on Saturday. Maybe he just didn't participate, but he's dealing with chest, and it sounds like the chest is maybe like a congestion issue because flu was added or illness was added to the injury report. So I can't think of anything more I'd love to do than go play at Lambeau Field with the flu in the cold weather. But it sounds like MVS is going to suit up. They said they expected him to improve and probably be okay to play for Monday. We don't know officially yet. Again, I'm recording this Monday morning. We don't know for sure. We'll know. We'll get national reports. And if they elevate multiple receivers, we'll know that MVS is probably out. But we lean towards him playing. If we look at last week when they didn't have Olave, they still didn't have Bud Means. It was MVS running 32 routes. It was actually the tight end, Juwan Johnson, who ran the most routes for the team at 33. Then it was this very real NFL wide receiver core of Kevin Austin running 30 routes. Throwback name, Dante Pettis running 20 routes. In 2024, Dante Pettis running 20 routes is not good for your team. And then also veteran Cedric Wilson ran 14 routes. I just speechless at this wide receiver core, to be honest. So that's what we're working with tonight, and that's why the Saints are 14-point underdogs. If we go to Green Bay's side, their middle linebacker, Quay Walker, is out. So if we're looking for some reason, trying to cling to some hope that New Orleans' offense can compete in this game, maybe that's the reason. Probably not. Luke Musgrave is probably going to be activated from injured reserve. Got in practices this week, said he looked good. They have an open roster spot where they can just activate him and not have to make any other roster moves. So it seems like he's going to be active tonight. When he was active at the beginning of the season, at least I thought he was going to be the tight end one, but it was clearly Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft remains the tight end one. When Musgrave was active those first few weeks of the season, he was playing anywhere between 25 to 50% of the snaps. Probably will be on the lower range in this game, but either way, he'll play some snaps and he's $1,600, so he's got to be in our player pool as a result. If he's activated, we'll know by 4 p.m. Eastern for sure. All right, let's talk about low risk contests. And if you've caught the vibe so far, you'll probably realize that there isn't much of a low risk slate here because of the uncertainty on the New Orleans side, because of the massive spread, but we'll do our best. So, as you know, we try to lock up all the scoring, playing both quarterbacks, playing both running backs in 50-50s, double ups, head to heads. Contests where you just have to beat half the field to double your money. And if we did that, right, we would start by Josh Jacobs, who's going to be incredibly popular, and then Jordan Love, who's going to be incredibly popular. And then we play Spencer Rattler, who will be the most popular Saints player. Now, by definition, we would play Kendre Miller. But as I was just talking about, do we want to play a 14-point underdog committee running back? Not at $9,400, we don't. So we can't really play Kendre Miller in this spot. Then the question is, what do we do next? Dude, I don't know. It's tough here, right? You play something like Packers defense as 14-point favorites. You play McManus, the kicker, and then you could play Dante Pettis, who's going to run routes at 1K, or Cedric Wilson, or Musgrave. That's one way. You could fit in another stud. Who the hell is the stud? Jaden Reed, I guess, in his 50% snap rate. I don't know. Dobbs, Watson, maybe a Green Bay receiver. It's always roulette with which receiver is going to go off. Let's just say we play Reed. I don't know why we would. 2,200, and then we play Dante Pettis. Yeah, dude. Kevin Austin. I don't know, man. Low risk is not the move tonight on DraftKings. If you find an angle that you like to play, there could be an edge because the field's is probably going to build a pretty a volatile low risk lineup. So if you find something that you like, go ahead and play it. Just doesn't seem like a very safe approach tonight. FanDuel, if we try to do this, right? Now, Kendre Miller is a little cheaper over here, relatively speaking, 11K. So we could do this, but again, do we want to play a committee running back on a 14-point underdog team? Probably not. I think the best way, and FanDuel's a little better tonight, we have Rattler in there. I think we just want to go something like Packers D, Packers kicker, Packers D, Christian Watson, Packers D, Juwan, something like that. So Jacobs, Love, and Spencer Rattler and two 9 to 10K players is probably the way you want to play low risk on FanDuel tonight. It is certainly better than it is over on DraftKings. All right, let's get the water sip in. Now, this is an exciting high-risk slate because of the big spread, because of the field is going to be so predictable. The ownership is so concentrated. So that makes it a really good high-risk slate as a result. And that's what makes me excited to play this slate in particular. Hoping we can repeat what we did on Saturday. This was my results, by the way, from Saturday, where I won basically every single contest. I only built 3 lineups for that Baltimore and Pittsburgh showdown slate. But using all the strategies we talk about in these videos every single week, I swept every single contest, close to 20K in winning. So big showdown slate, going to look to repeat that tonight. Now, here's what we're going to talk about for high-risk contests. Let's start with 2 underperforming wide receivers. We're looking for reasons to get different. What better way than to look to our underperforming wide receivers as a way to try to beat this chalky low-risk what the field think is going to happen. When the field is dead set on what is going to happen and the ownership concentrates as a result, we have a really good chance to make some money in high-risk contests. And as a result, because the field is only building one way, no one is building with the two underperforming wide receivers at captain. Both are going to be under 5% at the captain spot. One is MVS Revenge Flu Game Valdez Scantling. Now, Valdez Scantling, again, new quarterback, so this contributes to some of this, but has expected to have scored 38 fantasy points over the last 3 games with the Saints as their wide receiver one, has only scored 29. Can Valdez Scantling capitalize on that? Or can Valdez Scantling and Spencer Rattler capitalize on that? Not sure, but if you're looking for any way to get different, I'll take an underperforming wide receiver, especially one with Valdez Scantling's skill set, a guy who can get deep, a guy who's known to catch deep balls, only takes one or two to pay off his price tag. So MVS is certainly in play as a captain in high-risk contests. The other is, and he'll be 5 times more popular, 5% compared to 1%, maybe a little more on DraftKings, is Christian Watson, who over the past 3 games expected to have scored 38, has only scored 33 fantasy points, so slightly underperforming. And if we're looking just try a way to try to differentiate which Green Bay receiver to play, we'll play the underperforming one. So that's Christian Watson. And again, because the field is basically going to jam in Jordan Love or Josh Jacobs at captain, that means all these other guys are going to be under 10% at captain, which is a great way to play high-risk contests. So MVS in the flu game, back in Lambeau, or Christian Watson are the two underperforming wide receivers to consider for this slate. So as I was alluding to, the field is going to build extremely, extremely Green Bay heavy. And why wouldn't you, right? They're 14-point favorites. We have all these random guys playing for the Saints, a committee backfield. And I think that's the right way to build, especially smaller contests. You're building really small contests, 5-1, 4-2, Packers lineups. It makes a ton of sense. But we're looking to get different, and we're looking to win a lot of money. Obviously, we could flip it and play Saints-heavy lineups, which seems crazy. Though I think the way that would work is if Jacobs scores like 3 touchdowns and the Saints are in comeback mode and a bunch of different pass catchers or running backs get involved. Certainly possible, right? We saw it on the Raiders-Chiefs showdown slate on that Black Friday where the field built extremely Kansas City heavy, but Raiders heavy or balanced lineups ended up winning because of that exact type of game script. So that can happen tonight. But if you're going to build Green Bay heavy and you think that's the right way to go and you can't possibly envision yourself building balanced lineups or Saints heavy lineups, you think there's zero way the Saints can compete, a couple ways to get different is playing multiple low-owned players and or a low-owned captain or leaving salary on the table, especially if we use the Packers defense, who's going to be popular at freaking $6,200 on DraftKings. Just an insane defensive price. And we know basically whenever a defense is this price and I complain about it and make fun of it here in these videos, it's like a 99% chance they're in the optimal lineup. So if you're going to play the Packers defense, as we know, when defenses are in the winning lineups, less salary is used. So leaving more than $1,000 of salary on the table in a blowout, maybe the game goes a little under the total, a 27 or 33-10 type of game, we could see more salary being left on the table, especially if you use the Packers defense. So that's one way to go. Now, I will say, I looked at the past 5 years. We have our database that we looked at how these optimal showdown lineups on DraftKings have fared when we've had a double-digit favorite, because it is a different type of game environment that we're looking at. And I looked at all sorts of different statistics, and I think there's two key takeaways that you want to take away from this video when you're thinking about how does a double-digit spread impact my lineup building and optimal lineups for DraftKings showdown slates. The first one is captains, and this may be a little surprising, but running backs are less optimal at captain compared to a normal spread or all spreads. They are significantly less used in the optimal captain spot when there's a bigger spread, 10 points or more. The two positions that end up higher frequency of optimal lineups than this entire set of showdown slates over the past 5 years are quarterbacks, which is kind of surprising to me, and tight ends. I don't know what I expected, to be honest, but quarterbacks and tight ends are both used more. So Spencer Rattler, Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, Jawan Johnson, the latter two tight ends, Kraft and Johnson, won't be nearly as popular as the quarterbacks. So that is one way to get different on DraftKings playing the tight ends at captain, because historical data tells us that whenever we have a large favorite on a showdown slate, tight ends are more optimal than they usually are at captain. So one way to think about it. The other one is, and this is not surprising whatsoever, you look at the stack types, right? So 5-1, 5 players from one team, 1 from another. 4-2, the ones we were just talking about, how the field is going to build Green Bay heavy. I think I expected the optimal lineups in large spread games to lean more towards those onslaught builds, 5-1s and 4-2s, and that's exactly what it showed. In fact, 28% of optimal lineups when there's a large spread are of the 5-1 variety, which is crazy. because that's nearly double what it is when we look at the entire sample over the last 5 years. So that makes it really hard to get away from 5-1 lineups. But again, only 28% of the time that's happened, right? So it's still 72% of the time that a non-5-1 stack has won. So I will say, if you're looking just for some angle, you don't know where to start. It's playing quarterback or tight end at captain, or it's playing 5-1 stacks and leaving some salary, because that's what historical data has told us about these types of games. All right, one more water sip, and then we will talk about captains and MVPs and how to get different there on both sides. So if we go to FanDuel, basically, I don't know, 80%, if not more, 75 of the MVP ownership is Josh Jacobs or Jordan Love. They're going to both be 30% plus. It's going to be crazy. And it's hard to argue with that. It really is hard to argue with that based on how this game is set up and based on projections. So what we could do, we could play that and play multiple low-owned players. And there are a ton of low-owned players. I would not fault anyone for going either 100% Jacobs or 100% Love or playing 50-50 if you're making multiple lineups for this slate and just playing a bunch of low-owned guys or rotate different low-owned guys into your flex spots. Or you could get crazy. We could play Spencer Rattler, underdog quarterback, who can run, so that gives us some hope. You could play Kendre Miller in the hopes that he gets all the work as the underdog running back. Or you could play the underperforming wide receivers. That's possible as well. So no one's going to play Watson and MVS on FanDuel at MVP. In a lower scoring game, or maybe they catch multiple touchdowns, I could see it. Is it tough? Yes, obviously, but it could happen. Now, DraftKings is the same as FanDuel, just not as extreme. But we still have a good chunk of captain ownership going to the top two guys in Jacobs and Jordan Love. Absolutely dominating captain ownership. Might be collectively two different guys from the same team. Might set a record for captain ownership just from two guys from the same team. So every other player basically is under 10% projected captain ownership right now. So Christian Watson, all the other Green Bay receivers, Jaden Reed loves scoring multiple touchdowns in a primetime game. All the Saints players, MVS, the other underperforming wide receiver in Christian Watson, the tight ends who I talked about having some leverage in these large spread games historically. So to me, it seems like on FanDuel, you just eat the chalk at MVP. You play Jacobs and Love and just try to get different in the flex spots. Here, I can see a much greater argument to playing any of the Saints guys, underperforming wide receivers, or the Green Bay receivers, because it gets tough once you're playing 20, 30% captains and you're competing against a large chunk of the field. Playing the lower owned captains, especially with the salary multiplier, seems like the easy route to go for tonight's slate. Now, there's a lot of information. Make sure you check out our daily plug, occupyfantasy.com. That'll be up later this afternoon. Our writer Bismo will go through his slate notes, his personal rankings, his specific construction tips for different contest types on DraftKings and FanDuel. Goes into much more depth than I can go to in this video. The link is in the description below, so make sure you check that out. He'll also be writing the Christmas plug, which will be out either probably tomorrow night or Wednesday morning for that 2-game slate. So occupyfantasy.com is where you can get that. The Occupy model and our projected ownership is extremely important for all slates, as is our lineup builder, but especially important on slates like tonight. I'm going to be building all kinds of rules and testing out all kinds of lineups for tonight's slate using our builder. And you should too if you want that extra edge for your lineups. So again, make sure you subscribe to get notified when any future videos, but specifically the Christmas video, comes out. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Any questions, I will monitor the channel throughout the day. Drop a comment below. I will get back to you. And if not, join our Discord server where you can chat with other members of the community, other members of our website, and come sweat out the games with us. It's always fun. So Brian from Occupy, thank you for listening. Good luck and try to enjoy tonight's Packers and Saints showdown slate.